In 1785, Scottish poet Robert Burns wrote, "The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry." And the same can be said for the best laid plans of booksellers and acquirers. This story begins in Scotland in the early 1700s, when Peter Patrick Burns was born in East Lothian. He became the father of Jeanie Burns, who in time became the paternal grandmother of Concord, Massachusetts writer Henry David Thoreau. And this is what brings us across the ocean from Scotland to Concord, Massachusetts, where we find 27-year-old Henry David Thoreau living in his small cabin on the edge of Walden Pond for a 2-year, 2-month, and 2-day span between 1845 and 1847. Based on his experiences living at Walden Pond, Thoreau wrote his now famed book, Walden, or Life in the Woods. The book was published on August 9, 1854, by Boston publisher Ticknor and Fields. 2,000 copies were printed, bound in brown cloth-covered boards with gold gilt lettering. Replicated from Thoreau's hand-drawn map of Walden Pond and woods, a limited number of maps were bound into some editions, along with 4 different sets of advertisements. The first printing was so successful that reprints from the first edition printing plates began, again and again and again, as Walden became more popular. The book's fame and Thoreau's freedom of thought and oneness with nature spread around the world into a well-known classic whose words are still highly valued and influential in this modern day. And one day, in this modern time period, Barrow Bookstore of Concord, Massachusetts received a notice offering Barrow a chance to acquire one of these scarce first editions of Walden. Barrow Bookstore was looking for something to use in a fundraiser to help raise money for Concord Civil War Monument Task Force in their effort to add the name of Concord's fallen soldier, George Washington Dugan, to the town's already existing Civil War monument. Dugan, an African-American free man from Concord, was part of the Massachusetts 54th Regiment, led by Captain Robert Gould Shaw. During the 1863 South Carolina Battle at Fort Wagner, Captain Shaw and a large part of the 54th Regiment were killed in battle. Some of their bodies never recovered, likely buried in a mass grave. Because his body was never found, Dugan was listed as missing in action, and his name never added to Concord's Civil War Monument. Now, led by historians Rick Frese, Beth Van Duzer, David Wood, and Matt McGrath, research has proven Dugan's right to be added to the Civil War Monument and his place honored in history. The new monument plaque project requires community support and funds, and with this treasured first edition of Walden, Barrow saw a spark for how to help. A raffle, affordable tickets, and a chance to both win a first edition of Walden and support the monument effort. An exciting opportunity for book collectors and lovers of Henry David Thoreau. But there were 2 catches. 1. This first edition of Walden was missing the title page. It has happened in the book world that pages fall out, people cut them out, maps are removed for their value or other intriguing reasons. And catch 2, there was a time constraint, like right now. No time for photos, Barrow Bookstore had to buy it on the spot or leave it. A series of rapid questions with the seller followed. First edition, first printing? Yes. How do you know? We've had multiple dealers verify it for us. Spelling or word mistakes on these pages? Yes. End pages yellow? Yes. Map present? Yes. And so on. The adrenaline was pumping. Walden! The Concord house where Thoreau wrote this book, a 1/4 mile from Barrow Bookstore. Come on, Walden! Let's bring you home. The purchase was made. After careful packaging and an easy journey to Massachusetts, the book arrived in Barrow Bookstore. Immediately, it struck us. Something was very off. First off, the binding. The brown cloth-covered and embossed boards are indeed uniform with the first edition, first printing, but look at the spine. The first edition, first printing, was published with Thoreau's original full title, reading Walden or Life in the Woods. After the first printing, Thoreau changed his mind. He no longer liked the full title and asked his publishers to change it to just Walden. The binding was changed, and all printings after the first printing appear with just Walden on the spine. Next, we look at the end papers. As described in Thoreau scholar Walter Harding's bibliography of the works of Henry David Thoreau, the first printings of Walden had yellow end papers. Later printings had chocolate end papers. In this book, the back has yellow end papers. In the front, they are more white than yellow. Are these indeed the original end papers? Or perhaps were they added to make the book appear like an early first? Advertisements? There are none. Where are they? Spelling and word errors that appear in the first edition are present, consistent with this Walden indeed being printed from the original first edition printing plates. As time wore on and early editions of Walden continued to be republished, the original printing plates began to show signs of wear. The printer made some repairs to the plates, darkening a few words throughout the book, such as the RE at the end of one word. This book's pages show the darkened repair marks. Book's spidey senses began to conjure Alice in Wonderland's phrase, "curiouser and curiouser." Based on identifying points described by Harding, the Bibliography of American Literature, and other sources, Barrow notes these points. The binding is uniform with the first edition, and it shows the adjusted title on the spine. First edition, first printing? No. Second or third printing? Possibly, but we suspect not. Somewhere up to the 17th printing from the first edition plates? Yes. Fraud? No. We suspect something has happened to this book over time that led people to believe it was, or perhaps portray it as, a true first. It is Barrow's opinion that this is a later printing of the first edition of Walden, published from the first edition plates. And in this way, it is still a scarce and special copy. The words in it, and in any edition ever printed, forever valuable. As Thoreau wrote in Walden, what mystery is there in this? And in the end, only this copy of Walden knows.
His truth is marching on.
This copy of Walden is available for sale on Barrow Bookstore's website and in store. Although it will now be a mouse's share instead of a lion's, all profit will be donated to Concord's War Memorial gift account in honor of abolitionist Henry David Thoreau and Massachusetts 54th Regiment and Concord's own Private George Washington Dugan.
He is sifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat. As you died to make men holy, let us die to make men free. While God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. While God is marching on. He's coming like the glory of lamps. I can read his righteous sentence by the dim and flaring lamps. His day is marching on.